Okay, brilliant. Well, we'll make a start. So thanks so much for joining us, everyone, and for the opportunity to connect with you. Look, on behalf of Good Sports, particularly Hugh, Ryan and myself who are presenting tonight, we hope you and your families are keeping well and safe during this interesting time in our lives. Good Sports have had a number of conversations with community sporting clubs across the country over the last couple of months. We recently did a survey nationally with our Good Sports clubs to get a bit of an understanding on the needs and the opportunities at this time. And Hugh actually has been talking to his clubs across Tassie pretty much on the daily basis over the past couple of months as well. So hopefully what we present to you tonight is helpful and that you're able to share the information and resources with your committee and other club members and so forth over the next weeks and months. I want to emphasise that this is just the start of the conversation, and your Good Sports Relationship Manager, in this case Hugh, will touch base with each of you following the forum and talk through all this in a bit more detail, and also talk through some of the other awesome stuff we do through our Good Sports program. So my name is Steph Maculaitis. I'm the Acting Regional Community Development Manager for the Good Sports team in Tasmania, and my co-presenters tonight are Ryan Lees and Hugh Graham. I will pass on to Hugh, who will introduce himself and to do acknowledgement of country.
Thanks, Steph. For those who don't know me or those who I haven't met yet, my name is Hugh Graham. I've worked with the Alcohol and Drug Foundation for about 18 months. In terms of Good Sports, I work with about 250 or so sporting clubs, and I'm really excited to meet those of you who I haven't yet. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet tonight, in Hobart, it's the Muyanina people. I'd like to pay respect to their elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge their continuing connection to land, waters and culture.
Great, thanks Hugh. So in terms of tonight's agenda, we'll provide a brief overview of the work that we do at the Alcohol and Drug Foundation. Ryan will provide a refresher on the Good Sports program and the brilliant work that the TAS team do with Good Sports clubs. We'll touch on a couple of key topics that we've been hearing are of high relevance at the moment for sporting clubs, and that's around social media and mental health. We're seeing some really cool examples of how sporting clubs across the country, as well as in Tassie, are using their social media channels to connect with members and promote messaging and so forth. So Hugh will talk to a couple of those examples and share them with you, in addition to some tips and resources. Excuse me. We'll also touch on mental health, and one of the beauties of Good Sports in Tassie is we also have the Healthy Minds program, which really works to upskill clubs around how to have open and inclusive conversations around mental health, where to go to connect people with local support services, and implementing a mental health policy within the club. So we'll talk about that. And then Hugh will finish off the forum by talking about some of the online learning modules that the ADF have developed over the last year or two that hopefully are of use to your club. Feel free to use the chat function to ask questions or make comments. You're welcome to unmute yourself and do so. But we'll touch base throughout the course of the evening. We're mindful that you've probably had a very big day, so we won't go any longer than 40 minutes, but we will have time at the end for questions and conversations for those who want to stick around. Cool, so the ADF, we've actually just celebrated our 60-year anniversary. The organisation was established in 1959 as a coordinated response to the increased use of alcohol following the war. And the focus of the organisation back then was around treatment, education and research. Today, we're Australia's leading organisation committed to preventing and minimising the harm caused by alcohol and other drugs. And we work closely at the community level. So our policies, our practices and our programs are really focused around building the capacity of communities, including sporting clubs. So why our work is important. So you'll see from the stats here, which I won't go through, that alcohol and drugs are causing significant harm across Australian communities. And it's important to acknowledge that at the moment these stats are slightly shifting. So for instance, we're not seeing as many alcohol-related hospitalisations that would generally take place as a result of the nightlife, with pubs and clubs being closed. However, we are concerned around the increased use of alcohol in the home as a coping strategy for, as a result, from social isolation and other life pressures. The thing about these stats, though, in the current circumstances, in terms of alcohol and drug use, is that they are preventable. And so the work that we do through the Alcohol and Drug Foundation and the Good Sports program is really around building strong and connected and safe communities and relationships, which we know can prevent alcohol and drug related harms. But we can't actually do that work without the help of communities such as sporting clubs like yourselves. So I'll pass on to Ryan to introduce himself and to touch on the Good Sports program.
Thanks, Steph. Hi everyone, my name's Ryan. I'm a Community Development Officer for the ADF. I work with local government areas and leagues and associations to deliver the Good Sports program. What is Good Sports? We've been working with local sporting clubs for over 2 decades, helping to inspire them to be their best. This is why we're Australia's largest and longest health initiative in community sport. Our team helps clubs work through 3 levels. These levels have been designed to support long-term change around responsible alcohol management, safe transport, and promoting a smoke-free club environment. We also offer programs to support positive mental health, healthy eating, junior role modelling, and preventing illegal drug harm. The program is free and designed for busy volunteers. It can be completed online or with the support of a Good Sports team member such as you. There are currently 488 Good Sports clubs within Tasmania and 10,000 in Australia. We work with all sporting codes and clubs that are not classed as professional. This shows the incredible reach we have within the community sports section across the country. What are the benefits of Good Sports? As you can see, there are many benefits when becoming a Good Sports club. These include creating a more family-friendly environment, giving the club a positive profile when applying for grants, engaging more members within the club, creating awareness of behaviour, and lastly, Good Sports will also help you through any tricky paperwork such as policies. Two seconds, sorry. The research shows that Good Sports program has been proven to work. A randomised control trial found that Good Sports clubs experience a 42% decrease in alcohol-related incidents and a 37% decrease in risky drinking. This proves that Good Sports clubs are more family-friendly and provide safer environments. As I mentioned earlier, Good Sports program is broken up into 5 separate programs. These include our alcohol program, which works around preventing harms associated with alcohol, whilst also addressing safe transport and working towards removing smoking from clubs. Through our nutrition program, clubs are supported with tools and resources to promote healthy eating, implement safe food handling, and creating healthier club fundraising activities. The Healthy Eating program supports clubs to increase the range of food and drink options available and promote the benefits of healthy eating to the club community. Our Healthy Minds program helps clubs to reduce the stigma associated with mental illness, promote good mental health, and encourage open and inclusive conversations around mental health. The Illegal Drugs program helps clubs become better prepared to address drug-related issues. Clubs are supported with tools and resources to create an illegal drugs policy. Putting a policy in place is about prevention, and prevention is powerful. Creating a protective environment increases protective factors such as social connection and a sense of belonging. This promotes healthier behaviour, lifestyles, and supports your members' health and well-being. Finally, the Junior program equips clubs with tools and resources to promote the right attitudes towards alcohol, smoking, healthy eating, and spectator behaviour. Young members are learning the ropes and are influenced by everything they see and hear around the ground. Good Sports Junior helps you set the standard early and help promote healthier behaviours for everyone at the club. How can we work with you? There are a number of ways Good Sports can stay engaged and work with clubs during this COVID-19 period. These include arranging phone and Zoom meetings with a club representative or committee member, working with clubs to complete annual accreditations, assisting clubs to review and implement policies, and also providing electronic resources for clubs. We asked some Good Sports clubs to describe the program, and here we're going to show you a quick video of what they had to say.
The role that the club plays in the community is it gives an opportunity for children to not only play sport, but they get to mix socially with other people. They get to learn life values, and I think it brings the community together. The wings just spread and it just keeps going. Yeah, so it's a domino effect.
To be a part of a Good Sports program is really important to us. We certainly are a family-friendly club, so people can recognise that we're an alcohol-free zone for the juniors. We are a smoke-free zone, and everything is in the best interest of our children and our players.
It gives the club a better profile when going for grants, but also just about improving the environment for the families. And by improving the environment for families, we encourage more members to come on board as well.
To me, it's about the culture of the club. It just makes people aware about healthy options, drinking in moderation, that type of thing, and then obviously stepping up the levels like we have. You got to also implement that, you can't just talk about it.
With the Good Sports program, they've helped us to look at our food options in our canteen and drinking of water. I'm a full-time working person and I don't have time to read all the policies and regulations, so it's good to have someone help you through the process.
I would recommend Good Sports to any sporting club if they want direction in their club, easy steps, procedures, awareness, and lots of help and information available, which was wonderful.
My advice to other clubs is to definitely get involved, and you'll see improvements in your club and improvements as far as sponsors coming in and members participating in the club. So get involved and have a go.
Cheers. So as Steph mentioned earlier, I've spent probably the majority of the last 3 months or so having a conversation with clubs and basically getting a feel for how they're travelling and some of the things that they need help with. Two of the main things that came up were, marketing your club in terms of social media and mental health. So I'm going to have a bit of a conversation about social media within the club space. So I would take probably a bit of an assumption and assume that, clubs in the STJFL would have some sort of social media in one way or another, be that Facebook or Instagram. But there's obviously a whole heap of benefits of using social media. It helps promote what you're doing. It helps people get involved and engaged with your club, and it gives you a chance to connect with the community on a different level. So there's a few different things to think about when actually getting started, and I'm sure some clubs have thought about these things in one way or another. But these are sort of the basics. So who will manage the page and in what capacity? It's kind of important to think about having one or two key people who do the majority of it. It doesn't have to take up a huge amount of time, but if you've got the same people doing the same things regularly, it just adds a bit of consistency and they get to know the page a little bit better. In terms of what you're going to update and what you're going to share, it's really up to the club at the end of the day. Some clubs have recently been posting a lot of video coaching drills by their coaches to their teams. Things like, in the footy, I suppose, practicing with your left hand and your right hand, a coach showing the juniors how to bounce the ball properly or maybe handball the ball properly. There's no real limits on what you can post in that sense. Thinking about what language and tone you're going to use in your posts is important as well. So just because you think something is written down one way, it doesn't always come across that way. I'm sure everyone's been in a bit of a situation where they might have sent a text message that they thought sounded great, only to receive something different. So think about how you're phrasing what you're posting as well, and thinking about the formats of what you use. So things like photos, videos, links. Not everyone always has a huge amount of patience and attention span. So photos and videos can be really good to get people a bit of a change up. Yeah. In terms of planning your posts, it's kind of not something that's done hugely, but thinking about what you're going to be doing in advance. There's a bit of a table there that's part of our social media toolkit, and that sort of gives you a bit of a rubric almost to lay out when you're going to post and what. So it's always a little bit better to think of planning ahead. If it's the start of the week, think about what you might post during the week. You might want to post one thing on a Facebook page one day and something else on the Instagram page the next. It also saves you probably a little bit of time planning ahead rather than thinking, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, what can I post? What can be shared on the page? Obviously, the current circumstances are making people, according to the stats, find things like drinking a little bit more appealing. So in terms of helping you plan, we've got different things in our social media toolkits that we're going to send out that's available for download. Some of these things including, helping clubs with handling responsible drinking. I won't go into it too much, but there's a couple of examples there on the page. And as I said, I'll email this all to you tomorrow. So what can you post? Again, there's not really a limit to the creativity that people can get. As I said, people have been posting video coaching drills, and I think it's a lot easier for the kids to understand things that their coach is showing them rather than sometimes potentially a random video that they just see online. Things like online challenges have been really good too. So encouraging members of the community that don't necessarily have to just be the players can help engage the community on a deeper level. So that could be things like polls or questions for members. Getting a bit of a feel for what your community is interested in is a lot easier online a lot of the time than it can be in person. Things like member profiles or get to know me posts. It doesn't have to be just for the junior pages as well. I think some of the big personalities in some clubs like to get their face out there and a bit of information. It's a bit of fun, a bit of a laugh for the players as well. Same sort of thing for get to know me posts. It doesn't always have to be the players. So, really trying to highlight things like volunteers who are doing fantastic work, the mums who might be volunteering in the canteen. They really appreciate the recognition that they can get as well. I know tonight's an STJFL forum, but things like online tournaments, FIFA, which is an online soccer game, has been a really popular one. It's something else that clubs can do to engage their members that doesn't necessarily have to be getting a heap of kids in a room if we're still trying to social distance at the moment. Posting things like flashbacks to club histories. I know it's quite popular for clubs that have won premierships. It's a nice little way for people to reminisce and talk in the comment section about memories or who played a good game, some of the things they remember. And then lastly, clubs are organising things like we're doing tonight, Zoom or Skype meetings where they're having online video catch-ups. They could be having dinners together, they could be having team meetings, trivia nights, they could be doing anything, but really encouraging your members to stay in contact any way they can. So there's not really a point in having social media if no one's going to see it and no one's going to hear about what you're doing. So to start with, it's really important to grow your community. You can do that a number of ways, but obviously asking people in person to like or follow your page is probably the go-to. Getting your players to encourage their friends and their family to like your page as well can be a good way to spread your audience. Promote your social media, so that could be doing something like at a game day, announcing to the people, we've got a Facebook page, we've got a Twitter, we've got an Instagram, jump on board and you can see what we're posting. And it's also a really good idea to share content regularly. I know the Facebook algorithm tends to sort of promote Facebook pages that do post regularly, posting halftime scores, posting full-time scores, posting updates before and after games. It's really good to let people know that can't be there. It's also important for those people that are running the social media to set aside a bit of time every day to have a check of how things are going. It doesn't have to be a huge amount of time. It can literally just be the sake of, logging online, seeing who's commenting on what. You can start to get a bit of a feel for what your members are interested in. So if you're posting, photos all the time that aren't getting much interest, maybe think about sharing texts, maybe sharing links from other people, finding things that your members engage with and keep going with that. And starting conversations online is a really good way to grow your audience. Having people tag other people in things like competitions is a good way to see new Facebook pages. Sharing tweets is a really good way for other people that aren't following your page to find your Twitter profile. And a little tip there in the corner is that the most popular times for using social media are actually first thing in the morning and also in the evening. Particularly in the evening, you know, when people are getting home from work or school or whatever they're doing, it's a bit of a habit that people jump on their phone and scroll through social media. And it could be a really good chance for you to show off during the evening, you know, what you guys are doing, what you're up to, and people are probably more likely to see it then. So we've got a couple of different examples of what other clubs are sharing at the moment that we think are really impressive. South Hobart Football Club recently had a Zoom catch up with all of their teams, basically just checking to see how they're going. As I said before, you know, it's a really good example of clubs getting together at a time where they couldn't necessarily do so physically. And I think the feedback from their players, they really enjoyed it, and it was a good chance for them to chat to not only themselves, but also remember, you know, they are part of a club, not going through things alone. Red Park Footy Club also had a challenge where they basically encouraged people to post photos and videos of some of their memories. And that was a really good chance for people to reminisce about, you know, past experiences. I think they'd recently won a premiership, so there were a lot of comments and conversations about that. And it was a good way to get people thinking about the club when they can't necessarily be there at the time. Kennedy Hockey Club are a really fantastic club that have been supporting their members in terms of mental health for a long time. They recently introduced a mental health and wellbeing committee, and they put up the contact details of a couple of members of that committee, basically so that if people needed, they could reach out. I think that's a really good initiative, showing that, you know, even though they are a sporting club and even though they're not playing right now, they're still a club and a community that gets around each other, and they sort of are sharing those resources with themselves. This is always a bit of a tricky one in terms of what not to post. You know, we definitely can't tell you that you can't post this, certainly, but I think at the end of the day, some clubs need reminding that, you know, your social media is your brand. It's not always the people that like your page can see it. Anyone, for the most part, can jump online your social media and have a look. So, you know, think about who's seeing it. Think about, you know, what you're posting, particularly as, you know, SCJFL clubs, you know, the junior members, things like having, you know, promotions of beer, sculling and drinking games, you would imagine are probably not the most appropriate thing to be posting. And sort of, you know, recognising that even if you are posting a photo for the parents maybe, or sharing something to do with alcohol or something that might not be appropriate for the kids, thinking about what sort of page you are and who you are. There's absolutely nothing wrong with a bit of a laugh and a humorous post, but you've got to also think about things like inappropriate and offensive content. Again, particularly when clubs that are applying for grants, you know, funders, potential sponsors, anyone can jump online and look at your page. So think about if you were new to the club and you jumped online, what are you seeing at the club? What are you seeing online? Is it something that you would probably want to bring your kids to? Is it something that you think, oh, you know, maybe I don't want to take my kids here if all the parents are getting drunk on the sidelines? So that's essentially it for social media. I'll speak a little bit later, but I'm more than happy to talk to anyone who's interested about, you know, the social media side of things. And we'll send out a social media toolkit to everyone tomorrow. And again, I'm happy to have these conversations with people, hopefully when we organise more meetings.
Thanks, Hugh. We might just pause right there and just check in if anyone has any questions about the Good Sports program or around social media, or if you were you're also welcome to share what you guys as clubs are doing to connect with your members online. We're always open to hearing about that sort of stuff. You're welcome to unmute yourselves or make a comment in the chat function. Nope, that's okay. Not a problem at all. But yeah, you're welcome to butt in at any time. We're about 2/3 of our way through. So feel free to ask a question either by unmuting yourselves or through the chat function. So we just want to talk briefly about mental health. So as I mentioned earlier on, the Good Sports in Tasmania do have the Healthy Minds program. Sorry, we're just getting some feedback from someone. If you, unless you have a question, if you wouldn't mind muting yourself, that would be absolutely fabulous. Thank you. So as I mentioned, we've got the Healthy Minds program in Tasmania. So what we'll share with you tonight is a bit of an introduction to the Healthy Minds program. And Hugh will be able to touch base as part of his follow-up with each of you following the forum. He can talk a little bit more to this. I do want to emphasise that we're not mental health experts or practitioners. However, the content that you'll see tonight, in addition to the resources and the Healthy Minds program as a whole, have been developed by mental health experts. We'll start with a brief definition of mental health. So it's defined by the World Health Organization as a state of well-being in which every individual realises his or her own potential. They can cope with the normal stresses of life, they can work productively and fruitfully, and they're able to make a contribution to her or his community. Now, I do want to acknowledge that in these current circumstances that we're living in, people may not be able to fulfil these definitions around mental health. Mental health is a challenge for people right now, and a recent study conducted by the ABC has found that the number of Australians reporting poor mental health has more than doubled compared to a month ago. There's increased feelings of despair and a more significant increase in feelings of confusion. The good news is that there are quite a number of things that clubs can be doing right now to support members' mental health and promote help-seeking behaviours. And as Hugh alluded to earlier, people are on social media now more than ever, so it's really an excellent time to be promoting key messages and help-seeking behaviours through your club social media channels. And that can be around promoting general mental health suggestions, and we've got a number of messages and resources to share with you. It could be around publishing local support services, you know, for those that do require further support in this time and ongoing as well. Sharing positive good news stories through your social media channels is also really important as well. And, you know, and Hugh touched on some really good examples there. So looking at those flashbacks or those getting to know you stories or video coaching video skills, or even just sharing something really cool and wonderful and positive that's going on in any of your club members' lives can be really beneficial. Encouraging your members to reach out to specific members, so that might be within the club or it might be a local chaplain and so forth, and reaching out to each other if they're feeling isolated. So Good Sports have partnered with an organisation named Speak Up Stay Chatty, who are a Tassie organisation who work closely with sporting clubs, schools and workplaces around positive mental health. So together we've developed a number of mental health resources for good sports clubs, which Hugh will share with you tomorrow. So this is one example of a resource. So these are social media posts, and this is one example which is centered around self-care. So really emphasizing the importance of self-care as part of our daily routines, which we know is so important right now. It emphasizes taking a break, starting small, but being consistent. And if the person needs additional support, to feel free to call Beyond Blue on that particular number. So this is just one example of several social media posts that we'll share with you. Another resource that has been developed is, this is called a conversations poster. So it's really a tool about how to have mental health conversations within your club. And what's really good about it is it's not just useful for clubs, it's really useful for anyone really, and your day-to-day conversations with people as a whole. So this poster is available in hard copy as well, which we can post out to you to display at your clubs. But in the meantime, we'll certainly send it out via email tomorrow. So there's 4 components to the conversations poster. So the first one is around ask. So that's really around starting the conversation and giving that person the chance to open up. So it's really your time to express concern, which really demonstrates that sense of care. So you might open with a statement saying, I noticed you haven't been yourself lately. The second component is understand. So that's really around using open questions to gain a bit more of an understanding of what's going on with that person. So you might ask them, how long have you been feeling this way? Or you might just ask them to elaborate on what they've already spoken about. The third component is refer. So if the person wants to connect with someone else, this is your opportunity. And that might be someone else within the club. It might be a loved one, or it could be, or you could help them to connect with a GP or a crisis line, etc. And then lastly is check-in. So that's simply just following up with them after your last conversation, really checking in to see how they're doing, whether they're feeling better. Since you last chatted, do they need any additional support? And that really reinforces that message of care. One of the really beneficial things about this, this poster is it really starts to normalise the conversations around mental health and really reduces that perception and stigma that mental health is a negative thing, when in fact it should be part of our day-to-day lives. And it can be a positive thing. There is a thing called positive mental health. So it's not expecting you guys to be experts or professionals or to do a diagnosis by no means. It really just is a tool to hopefully guide your conversations, and it just reinforces that you don't need to be a professional to have a conversation with someone about mental health. So where to go for support? So there's a few services that we've got listed here. So the first one is Drug Info. So they're actually a service of the Alcohol and Drug Foundation, led by a beautiful, friendly, warm team who provide evidence-based information to people and lead them to relevant services. So they're confidential, non-judgmental, and they can be contacted by phone or email. We've got Beyond Blue, so they're a fabulous organisation that you guys might be familiar with, been around for a long time, and they've got a specific service really around coronavirus mental wellbeing and support. There's Lifeline, so they're a national service providing Australians access to 24-hour crisis support. There's Men's Line, they provide free help, support, referrals and counselling for men. And then there's Headspace, who provide information and support not only for young people, but their parents and carers. So these are just a few examples of services that are available to you and your committee and your club members. However, Hugh can talk to you individually in a bit more detail around the more local services in your area around your clubs. And look, lastly, just on mental health, it's just stressing the importance of staying connected, which Hugh was talking about earlier with social media. It's really important in this time of social restrictions and physical distancing, despite the fact they're slowly starting to ease. If you are aware of any club members that live on their own, please reach out to them. It goes a long way. It really does. That can be over phone or email or SMS. It really does go a long way. And the same sort of thing applies to those who are required to self-isolate because they're at high risk with their health. Again, just reaching out really goes a long way. And of course, promoting to your members to connect to each other and to reach out as well. Our colleague Shay actually found this image on the right-hand side there from the Beyond Blue website, which has a really strong message about remembering to reach out to friends and colleagues who get it. You don't have to face these feelings alone. And this is a good example of content that you can share from another organisation through your own social media channels.
Thanks, Steph. That was actually really good. I'm just going to quickly touch on two of the main online modules we have for clubs. And they basically, as it says there on the screen, just touch on things like tackling illegal drugs and managing alcohol. So the two main modules we have are really basic and they're really great resources for the committees. They go for about 15 minutes each. and they can be watched by really anyone. So the alcohol management, focuses around consumption of alcohol at the club, learning the risks associated with alcohol consumption and managing intoxicated people. I want to also acknowledge, obviously, that being junior STJFL clubs, alcohol might not have the same prevalence in your club as it may do in the senior club, or it may. But I think it's also a really good idea to think about reviewing how you view alcohol at things like end of season dinners. If there's a bar there for mum and dad to go and drink, just thinking about how it's managed and in what capacity. The tackling illegal drugs module goes over a few different examples of what to do if there's a drug incident at your club, be that through someone being in possession of a drug, being under the influence, or even selling. It goes over things that drug members, that different types of drugs. Start that again. The different types of drugs that members may encounter, and also the effects of drugs on the brain and body. As I said, I'll send those through to you tomorrow, and they can be available for an interview. They're really good for the committee, but if you think that maybe an under-16 team might find them relevant, share them with them. So where to from here? As these physical distancing requirements start to ease, people are slowly working back to their club. So I think now's a really good time to start looking at all the paperwork and wrapping up all the things that you do behind the scenes. Not too sure how the STJFL is going in terms of a plan for returning to footy, but I know that a lot of other sporting codes are in that sort of mode where they're saying, okay, let's get sorted now. What do we need to do before the season starts? And let's get all that out of the way so that we can focus on the sport once it's back. So we can do things like, helping review your social media approach, helping to promote help seeking to your members, passing on the online learning modules, and completing different good sports accreditations, whether that be something around the junior space, whether that be around the alcohol space, sort of up to you guys, and we're happy to help you where you think you need help. So that's pretty much it for tonight. Really appreciate everyone coming in. Don't know how long it's been going for, about 45 minutes or so. So feel free to ask any questions in the chat or unmute yourself and have any conversations. And we're happy to stick around and have a chat. All good. No problem, Linda's fun. Thanks, Karen.